What if your US citizenship, the one you worked so hard for, could be taken away years later? It's rare, but it happens. And yes, the government has the power to revoke citizenship, even decades after naturalization. In today's video, we're uncovering the 2 official ways the US government can denaturalize a citizen, and why this matters more than ever in 2025. This is Immiscope, your trusted source for US immigration news, policy changes and visa updates, fraud or misrepresentation during naturalization. The first legal ground for denaturalization is procuring citizenship by concealing a material fact or willful misrepresentation. In plain language, it means lying or hiding something important during your naturalization process. That could have been 10, 15, or even 20 years ago. If the government later discovers that you withheld critical information, you could be at risk. Examples include failing to disclose a past criminal act, misrepresenting your affiliations, or concealing membership in a group that's considered a threat to national security, even if you never thought it mattered. Concealment can be enough to start a denaturalization proceeding. What the government must prove. To revoke citizenship on this ground, the government must prove all 4 elements beyond clear and convincing evidence. The person misrepresented or concealed a fact. That misrepresentation or concealment was willful. The fact was material, meaning it would have influenced the naturalization decision. Citizenship was procured as a result of that misrepresentation or concealment. If any one of these elements fails, denaturalization cannot succeed. This is a high legal bar, but federal prosecutors have pursued several such cases, especially when criminal activity or false statements were later uncovered. How this happens in real life. Here's what a typical case might look like. An immigrant commits a crime before applying for naturalization. They were never arrested or charged. When filling out the N-400 form, they check no under the question about past offenses. Years later, a separate investigation or criminal case reveals the hidden offense. The Department of Justice then uses that earlier false statement as grounds for denaturalization, arguing that the person lied to obtain citizenship. Depending on timing and circumstances, this can lead to criminal charges for naturalization fraud, punishable by up to 10 years in prison, or a civil denaturalization process, which has no statute of limitations. That means even decades after becoming a citizen, your case can be reopened if new evidence surfaces. How the process unfolds. Denaturalization cases often begin when USCIS refers a file to the Department of Justice. From there, the U.S. Attorney's Office may file a civil complaint to revoke citizenship. Alternatively, the issue may surface during a criminal investigation, where prosecutors uncover earlier falsehoods. In both paths, the focus is on conduct that occurred before naturalization. However, there's a second, less known path that targets actions occurring after you became a U.S. citizen. And that's where things get more complex. Illegal procurement or disloyalty. After naturalization, the second ground for denaturalization is called illegal procurement of naturalization. This means the person was never actually eligible for citizenship in the first place, or later, engaged in conduct that violates the basic principles of allegiance to the U.S. This includes cases where someone didn't meet the continuous residence or physical presence requirement, wasn't lawfully admitted for permanent residence, lacked good moral character, or later acted against the U.S. Constitution to which they swore allegiance. Affiliation with certain groups. Federal law also allows denaturalization if someone becomes affiliated with certain organizations within a few years before or after naturalization. If, for instance, a person joins or supports a terrorist or totalitarian organization within 5 years after naturalization, the government may allege that their original oath of allegiance was false, even if the organization was not previously recognized as dangerous. New designations can trigger review if affiliation is discovered later. This rule dates back decades and has been used to target affiliations with communist or extremist groups, though modern cases are often linked to terrorism or national security. Risks. Attachment to the Constitution. When you took your oath of citizenship, you pledged true faith and allegiance to the United States and its Constitution. This isn't just symbolic. It's part of the legal foundation of naturalization. If a citizen's words or actions are later deemed to contradict that oath, for example, promoting violent overthrow or joining anti-constitutional movements, the government can question their attachment to the Constitution and use it as a basis to seek denaturalization. Fear, empower immigration scholars, including Professor Amanda Frost in her book, You Are Not American, Citizenship Stripping from Dred Scott to the Dreamers, remind us that denaturalization has long been used as a political weapon. During periods of national tension, governments used these laws to silence dissent or punish unpopular beliefs. As Frost notes, such campaigns created fear among naturalized citizens, discouraging them from speaking out, challenging authority, or expressing their identity freely. It's a reminder that while denaturalization laws exist for national security and fraud prevention, they also carry profound risks to freedom and equality if abused. Why this matters in 2025. In today's enforcement climate, digital case reviews, data sharing between agencies, and machine-based screening tools mean that old records, inconsistencies, or omissions can resurface more easily than ever before. For most citizens, there's nothing to fear. But understanding these rules helps protect your rights and ensures transparency in the process. If you became a U.S. citizen through naturalization, make sure your record is accurate, your documents are secure, and your past applications are consistent. Awareness is your best defense against unnecessary legal trouble. Tips and warnings. Keep copies of every immigration form you've filed. Old answers must stay consistent. Request records through FOIA if needed. Always answer truthfully on USCIS forms. Even small omissions can be seen as fraud years later. Maintain good moral character, pay taxes, avoid DUIs, and disclose any legal issues. Be cautious about organizations you join or donate to, especially if they're later labeled extremist or anti-US. If you ever receive a notice mentioning naturalization, review, or revocation proceedings, contact an immigration attorney immediately. Most citizens have nothing to fear, but awareness, honesty, and documentation are your best protection too. Recap: the U.S. government can revoke citizenship in two main ways: fraud or concealment during the naturalization process, illegal procurement or disloyal conduct after naturalization. Both require a high burden of proof. But when triggered, the process can permanently revoke citizenship and lead to deportation. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for future updates. Thanks for watching Immiscope, and stay informed. Your immigration knowledge is your strongest protection.